happening, YouTube? Eric Bauer, back again. I still haven't figured out how to get these fucking intros out of the way without sounding awkward and weird. And without having to walk into frame, because I gotta turn the CD on so the music starts after the camera starts. It's a thing. It's stupid. YouTube's fucking stupid. How about that? Anyway, that nonsense aside, Eric Bauer back again with another video for you today. It has been a little while since my last upload. In fact, I'd be hard pressed to tell you when I did my last upload. Doesn't matter though, I've got new material. This is a video that I've been sitting on for a while, gestating some stuff that I'm really excited to talk about because I've been listening to the shit out of all this stuff as of late. And it's just one of my fucking favorite niches within music. And you probably figured it out already based off the video title. We're going to talk about Italo Doom. Which is fucking a very distinctive scene, for lack of a better word. I almost said genre. Doom is the genre. You know, and of course there's lots of little niches within there. As far as the Italian scene goes, though, it's exceptionally distinctive, almost incestuous in that so many people within that scene have worked with other bands doing shit, that there's a lot of bleed over between membership, which you'll see what I'm talking about here, you know, shortly. Right now, we're listening to Lazzaro, the City of the Living Dead, City of the Living Nightmare, City of the Living Dead. That's a fucking Lucio Fulci movie, and it's fucking awesome. This is also fucking awesome. Look at that fucking pull-out cover art. Ah, it's so cool. And Lazzaro has one of the best logos of all time, in my opinion. I figured this was appropriate given how inspired and influenced by Italo Doom Lazzaro is. Really owes a lot to shit like fucking Paul Chain, Black Hole. We're gonna get into that. This is basically a one-man group. John Gallo. He does have some session players on here. He is the brainchild behind this project. He's also done a project by the name of John Gallo. Had an album released by Voidhanger a few years back. He's also the brains behind the project Crucifix, first wave of black metal worship with Dan Lilker. And he was also in the Doom Juggernaut Oral Ruin. And fucking all around an amazing musician, songwriter. And like I said, I thought this was appropriate based off of what we're going to talk about here. I'm going to go ahead and dive right into it. This is the first thing, and this is basic. Death SS. This is a story of Death SS, 1977 to 1984. This is all of the material released by Death SS between when they formed in 1977 and when Paul Chain left the group in 1984. You've got the band members here. Steve Sylvester, Paul Chain, these guys, not quite as memorable because they changed here and there. Steve Sylvester, Paul Chain were the founders of Death SS. Huge influences from shit like UK Doom being Black Sabbath, new wave of British heavy metal, Witchfinder General, shit like that. But also fucking progressive, like, you know, krautrock, you name it. Fucking, you could hear pull influences from like Tangerine Dream, Faust, even Amandul 2 on this album, to my ears anyway. And there's a heavy Italian prog psych rock influence running throughout this album. Shit like Goblin, Fabio Frizzi, fucking Saint Just. all notable and noticeable on this album. This album is legendary. Well, not just this album, but this band is legendary. Give it their influence on shit like King Diamond, Merciful Fate, black metal in general in the early days, heavy rock. I mean, this covers the gauntlet. You know, it's starts out sounding very 70s because it was the 70s. And it's just, I don't know, it's great. It's raw, which a lot of the stuff being recorded at the time wasn't. But this stuff, it's like I said, it's fantastic. This is probably the only thing that I would consider essential by Death SS. After Paul Chain left, kind of lost interest. It's kind of on me though, not any fault of anybody involved in the group. It's just great stuff, and you know, I highly urge you check this out. This CD is still available. I got it through the Death SS fan club, and had it for a while. It wasn't expensive, and it's awesome. There's another version that might be a little bit easier to come by, but you know, however you can get it, get it. Like I said, if you have any interest in doom or heavy rock, cult rock, psych rock, that kind of shit, fucking fantastic. Awesome, awesome shit. So from there, I'm going to talk about Paul Chain. Paul Chain, in 1984, left Death SS. Started the group Paul Chain Violet Theater. Put out this CD, which is fantastic. This is probably one of my favorites. Not just Paul Chain Violet Theater, but Paul Chain's solo material once he dropped the Violet Theater from the name. But this was the first EP that they put out after he left Death SS. This was released by Minotauro. These are all still in print, and fucking just really great. Paul Chain's probably one of my all-time favorite guitar players, songwriters. The man is just a virtuoso. He can write just about anything, whether it's doom metal, stoner rock, ambient, experimental shit. He's done it all under the Paul Chain name. Real name, Paulo Catena. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation. I took Spanish but not Italian in high school, and I don't remember a lot of it because I'm out of practice. Anyway, awesome, awesome, awesome album. Great start. I'm not going to show everything that he's fucking released because we'd be here forever, but just what I think are kind of the highlights of his shit. This is Life and Death. Came out in 1989 on Minotauro. It's under just the Paul Chain name. I want to say this was the first Paul Chain full length, and it's fantastic. It's got a little bit of a different vibe than Detaching from Satan, but it's still fucking phenomenal. It's great, great, great stuff. And highly influential. You listen to this, and you can hear where a lot of the heavy hitters in doom kind of got some of their style was from this era of Paul Chain, whether we're talking about like fucking you know, some of the raw earlier My Dying Bride stuff, or fucking you know, Solstice, and that's UK doom. Of course there's plenty of American doom that owes their share to Paul Chain as well. Pentagram, fucking Bobby's voice, in a lot of cases sounds it's kind of similar to fucking Paul. One of the cool things about Paul Chain is his lyrics are fucking nonsense words. So you won't find any lyrical content on any of his albums. This is another Paul Chain release. This was a special cassette edition released by Minotauro a few years back. Really, really nice version of his album Ash. Fucking just a great, great EP under the Paul Chain name. Came with an OBI, which is a real nice touch. I'm dropping shit. Yeah. Dropping shit again. Look at that. Got a sticker on there indicating what it is that you've got in your hands. And then, you know, the tape itself. They didn't do the pro tapes, but, you know, whatever. The quality of the J card and the packaging itself more than makes up for that. This album is a little bit different compared to the Paul Chain Violet Theater stuff or the early, that full-length. Dare I say that there's speed metal elements in this album. It's awesome. It sounds a lot like Hallow's Victim by fucking St. Vitus. Huge influence there, I'm sure. You know, I think that he was probably hearing a lot of that early American Doom when he left fucking Death SS, whether we're talking about Vitus or Trouble or Solitude Eternus. And a lot of that is evident in this, especially that Vitus influence. Fucking good. But my favorite is going to be this one right here, Alcahest. This came out fucking 1995. It was released by a label called Godhead. This is another Minotauro reissue. This album's fucking incredible. It's Paul Chain collaborating with fucking Lee Dorian. And it's just, it's phenomenal. It's almost mind-blowing how well their styles, again, not a pro tape, but, you know, I don't care. There you go. Paul Chain, Lee Dorian. This stuff is just killer. Whether you're talking about Paul Chain stuff, which definitely has a bit more of an ethereal sort of vibe to it, it's crushing nonetheless. But when you get to the Lee Dorian material, it's just knuckle dragging, fucking doom metal. Same sort of vibe and style that Cathedral was putting out around the same time in '95. So if you're, what is it, the Carnival Bazaar, probably the closest comparison of Cathedral material to what Lee Dorian was doing on this album. Lyrics are included on this one for the tracks that Lee Dorian wrote. However, again, for the Paul Chain tracks, it's nothing because it's just nonsense words. Awesome fucking cassette. These things are hard to come by now, but CDs still in print. Fucking phenomenal shit. Probably some of my favorite of the Italian Doom shit. Absolutely worth your time checking out. Next up, one band super influential for this band, specifically Lazzaro. Talking about Black Hole. This is a reissue put out by Shadow Kingdom some years back. Fucking originally came out in 1985 on a label called City Records. Was reissued, I want to say 2015. Like I said, Shadow Kingdom and High Roller did the vinyl reissue. This is one of my favorite band photos of all time. Look at the size of that coffin. It's so small. And of course, you've got the band. This album is fucking amazing, especially for 1985. I mean, what you get here is some excellent Doom, and it sounds like half of it's amazing Doom, and the other half would sound at home on like a Dario Argento fucking soundtrack. So you get a lot of experimental sounds, synth type work, and it's just fucking great. The Demoniac City, amazing start to the record. Land of Mystery, the title track, is fucking just iconic. Every song on here is just fantastic. Spectral World, it's so good. Mandatory. Like that Paul Chain stuff. This is absolutely mandatory. I can't recommend it enough. When you hear it, if you're in the right mindset, it could potentially just blow your mind. I don't know, maybe. Next album I want to talk about is Zess. You'd be forgiven for thinking that that looks like it could be from a Greek black metal band. It's not. They're Italian. This was released by Black Widow. This is a reissue, I'm pretty sure. It originally came out in 2004. However, the material on here was recorded in an 87, between 87 and 88. There's your cover, inside cover with the track listings, no track listing, and a bio here. This was basically a one-off project by a bunch of dudes who just wanted to fucking jam out to some fucking doom metal in Italy. One of the more notable members of this group is Pony Tears. We're going to talk about him next. Fucking just fantastic stuff. Most of the recordings were done in live sessions, not in front of a live audience, but it's heavy as fuck. I don't know, it's probably a little bit different than like that Black Hole. There's not a lot of experimentalism, and there are more nods to just like traditional heavy metal on this album, but it's still fucking fantastic. I love this album. This is kind of hard to come by. I happened to score this a while back at a local shop, and yeah, it's awesome. Great shit. Again, I'd highly recommend hearing that. So I mentioned Tony Tears in Zess. That's what we're going to talk about next. Tony Tears. This is a 3 CD compilation, music from the Astral Worlds 2000 to 2014. It's a lot of fucking material. This came out in like 2015, I want to say. So you've got a total of 3 discs in slipcases. And basically all of Tony Tears' recorded material from between the years 2000 and 2014. There are demos from before 2000 that are not on here, sadly. But I mean, you know, I'm not going to complain given the breadth of this compilation. It's huge. You see a lot of the same sort of imagery that was kind of popping up in those Paul Chain CDs. There's pictures of Tony playing guitar. Fucking great guitarist as well. And this stuff is awesome. Released, like I said, Minotauro. Great label. They did the fucking, just like the royal treatment to this stuff. Like, you've got cards for all of the album artwork. This album, high point on the CD, fucking amazing. Seed Stock released this on tape, and it was also released on vinyl. I can't remember who put out the vinyl version, but it's awesome. This stuff, so extensive. Like, ridiculously extensive. And exhaustive. You will not, well, if you can, did I show you the inside? Look at that. It's so nice. If you could sit down and fucking take this all in one sitting, more power to you. But it's something that definitely, I think, benefits from separating the albums and eras. This ranges from totally non-musical experimentalism and ambience to some of the most lo-fi, fucking atmospheric, gothic doom that you're likely going to hear. It's super melodic when it's doomy, which was one of the things that I feel like stands out about Tony Tears' project. Whether it's anything on this, like I said, the stuff that's not experimental and ambient is super lo-fi, but it still sounds fucking incredible. And then, of course, got some stuff that is not covered in that comp by Mr. Tony Tears. All this stuff is released by Minotauro, though. Great label. They don't just put out doom. They put out some black metal too. I've got a version of the band Ritual, U.S. black metal, vinyl treatment by Minotauro. This is his album from, I want to say, 2015, fucking Follow the Signs of the Times. This album's pretty distinct and notable in that at the time that this came out, he was actually wanting to kind of step away from the Tony Tears imprint of his previous material, but he just ended up keeping the name. I don't know exactly what the story is behind that. So in essence, sounds like a totally different band in a lot of ways from the stuff that you'll hear on that 3 CD compilation. It's got that undeniable melodicism that I feel like Tony Tears is very, very like signature sound. You might recognize a lot of the sounds if you're familiar with Abysmal Grief. And part of that's because Tony Tears was in Abysmal Grief. Just for like a year, I want to say from like 99 to 2000. But he was a contributor to that musical project back then. And a lot of the elements that kind of cropped up then and now in Abysmal Grief is very reminiscent of a lot of the earlier Tony Tears material. However, not only was he involved with Abysmal Grief, but he has one of the guys from Abysmal Grief involved in the Tony Tears name, starting with this album. And then, of course, you've got his newest, fucking Demons Crawling at Your Side. This album came out this year, Demons Crawl at Your Side. Early this year, either early this year or late last year. Another release from Minotauro. Fucking, I don't know who that is. I think that's, there's some lady vocals on here. I'm pretty sure that's who contributes those. And this album is one of my favorites for 2018. It's fucking phenomenal. It's kind of like a concept album. So there's a lot of like found sounds on here, so a lot of samples, and the whole concept is like demonic possession, which is kind of hokey, but the way they pull it off, it's awesome. It's super melancholic, melodic as shit. The vocals are a high point for sure, just like really, really obscure and dramatic fucking vocals that they'll stick with you. I love that shit, man. It's so good. I have the vinyl version of that latest Tony Tears en route just because I like it so much. It was supposed to get to me earlier this year, but there's been an issue with the shipper, so I'd have that to show if that weren't the case, but I don't, so I mean, that's what you get. Anyhow, next thing on the list, we're going to talk about probably, I really like the Paul Chain stuff, like obviously I've gushed about it on this video. I really like the Tony Tears stuff. Again, I just literally just gushed about Tony Tears, but this is probably my favorite project coming from that scene. I'm talking about the band The Black. Not the Swedish The Black, the Italian The Black. Really fucking excellent band within the Italian scene. Fucking, this is not the first album they released, but it's the earliest of their material that I've got in my collection. Fantastic stuff. Gatefold. That's the guy behind The Black. Mario The Black Di Donato. Just fucking fantastic stuff. One of the stellar things about this project is that every album sounds different from the previous album. So even if you're familiar with what the last album sounded like front to back, you're going to get a different listening experience on the following record. This is the album Apocalypsis. That first one was Refugium Peccatorum. All of these were released by Black Widow out of Italy. Another gatefold. This album is a lot more progressive than the last album. You know, stands on its own. It does not sound like the preceding record much at all. But it's nonetheless fucking phenomenal. And part of the thing that fucking is like really stands out about these albums by The Black is the artwork, which Mario painted himself on each one. Another one of the things that stands out about The Black is that all of the vocals or lyrics are sung in Latin. This is Capistrani Pugnator. This is one of my favorites of this project. This album is fucking amazing. It's so good. If I could fucking gush about it more, I probably would. But just, you know, believe me when I tell you this album is amazing. You know, you've got elements of traditional Doom, whether it's reminiscent of US or UK Doom. Nothing epic like Candlemass, really, but you will hear a lot of nods to like St. Vitus, fucking Solstice, Trouble again. But you're going to hear a lot of progressive rock flourishes throughout these albums. A lot of actual experimentalism, but it's always musical. And just, it's just so good. It's such a unique project within that scene. Here we've got fucking Piccatus Nostris. This is another one of my favorites of his. This album, like the one I just showed, fantastic. I have nothing bad to say about this record. The track flow is perfect. Again, the album art, amazingly suited for the record's content. You get a lot of theme exploration with like Orthodox Catholicism and whatnot. But again, there's a lot of occult references in here. Really fucking great shit. Again, this album, another favorite. It's just excellent. And then I've also got, yeah, another one. This is the last one I've got by The Black, however, sadly. This is his most recent album, Gorgoni. It's a concept album about fucking Medusa, most specifically the myths that went around Medusa and those people that, you know, were involved in Greek mythology at the time. This is kind of a departure because there's not a lot of fallback to like Christian iconography in this. It's a double LP. It's a little long-winded, but it's so good. It doesn't get boring. This is one I can listen to from front to back. I absolutely love it. I do at one point want to fill my shelves with everything this project's put out. I'm missing 3 albums. Not in a huge rush, but anyway, that's all I've got. If I didn't go into enough detail on some of these, I apologize. Like I said, I'm not an expert on this fucking type of material. I just really like it, which I think is probably going to be obvious based off of how I talked about each one of these projects. But comment below. Hit me up. Let me know what you think. If there's some projects out of that scene that I didn't bring up that should have been, let me know. Like I said, it's a huge scene. And there are definitely bands that I had to leave out. Let's talk about this shit. Get some dialogue going. You know I respond to all my comments. Like I said, unless they're fucking dumb. Then I might not. But even then I might. You never know. Again, take it easy, YouTube. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Keep it real.